Well, for this tutorial, you now have almost everything you need that you can build on to complete your next assignment. There's lots that's not been finished yet in this game, right, that you'll have to go in and add yourself. But there are a few more pieces in here that I want to make sure to remind you how to do in one case and to give you the starting of a procedure to do something that's a little more difficult in the other case. First of all, we have all of these great sounds inside this game, but we've not made use of any of them yet. For your assignment, you're going to need to make use of all the appropriate sounds in here. So let's start off just with a reminder of what it is you need to do. So I'm opening up our fire object, and we have a couple of collision events in here that we've already seen. One which we haven't done anything with, which you'll have to do for your assignment, which is a collision with the baby dragon. And another is one that we have worked with, which is to set up the actions for when there's a collision between the fireball and the demon. So we've got a special effect, and we're giving the player some points, and then we're destroying both the demon and the fireball. Here's a good spot to play some sound. So let's do that. And do you remember how to do it? Audio, sound, play, since I'm lazy. Or rather, I should say audio play. Sound. And then the sound ID for this one, we're hitting the demon. Well, let's see what we've got. We've got sound demon. Let's use that one. SND demon. Set the priority to 10, which pretty much we always do, and we don't want it to loop, so we say false. Okay, let's make sure that works. Okay, you may or may not hear that, but I've got the sound, so that's working. Let's copy this, and together within this tutorial, I'll give you one more for free. We also need to have a sound so that when the player collides with the demon, here too, we're taking away some health from the player and we're destroying the demon. This is another spot where we want a sound, and the sound here that we want is which one? Sound player hit. I've named the sounds so that they'll be pretty obvious as you're going through, so you know which ones to use for which object. We've got demon, background, frozen, which we're going to get into in a second, save, which is a sound that is played when you save a baby dragon, baby, which is a sound you play when you kill a baby dragon by hitting it with a fireball. All right. Good enough, so that's the easy one. Now let's do a little bit of work. I don't want to give away the game completely, but I want to help you a little bit with a challenging piece of this assignment, which is to create an effect such that if your player is hit by an evil baby dragon, then your player should freeze momentarily, should change its appearance while frozen, and then should unfreeze after a certain number of seconds, and then its appearance should change back to the regular player. Here, I'll show you this. So here's a finished version of the game. Let's see if I can get an evil baby coming out here. Oh, so you can see there I'm frozen briefly, and then I come back again. See if I get another evil one we can show you again. There, I'm frozen. And now I can move again. All right, so part of your assignment is to create that. So let me give you some hints here. First of all, that is happening as a collision between the player and the demon, and you can set up that collision either direction, from the little baby evil dragon or from the player. So let's I've set it up by default here in our player. You can see there's an empty collision with an evil baby dragon object. We haven't set up this evil baby dragon object. That's something you'll have to do for your own assignment. And we'll go through that in just a second. But all right, so the point will be, though, that we want to freeze our player. So let's put in a couple of notes. All right, what do we want to do here? We want to freeze the player for a number of seconds. Okay. And we want to change the sprite to look frozen. And then after a number of seconds pass, unfreeze and change appearance back. All right. So how can we do this? Well, some parts of this collision you've already worked with, right? The things that we've already done, for example, you know how to reduce the number of health, you know how to play a sound, and you know how to destroy this instance here, okay? So some parts of this we can just steal. Well, I'm going to leave that, so you can copy and paste and then modify them over here. But how in the world can you freeze this guy? How can you freeze this guy? Well, if you go back to the create event, in the create event, we have created an instance variable called health for the player. So it's a variable that kind of makes sense to live here rather than on the controller because it belongs to the player. You could create a variable that records whether or not the player is frozen. So I'll give you that one. So I'm going to create a variable called frozen, and rather than being a number, this is going to be a Boolean, which just means it's going to be a true or false value, and we're going to set it to false when we start the game, okay, or when this dragon first appears. Okay, that's fine. How are we going to make use of that in our collision? Well, how does this know if the player is frozen? Right? Well, we set it to not be frozen. So when we reach this collision, we could change it to frozen here, I suppose. That would work. So you could do that. You could change the value of frozen to be true. Okay. How could you make it appear to be a different sprite? Okay. Well, if you look up at our sprites, we have our regular old dragon sprite, but you'll see there is already a frozen version of this sprite. So what you want to do is that when you've got a collision between the player and this evil baby, you want to change this sprite to the frozen sprite. And there's a built-in variable for that that is called Sprite Index. Okay. And all you have to do is say Sprite Index equals, and then whatever the name is of the sprite you want to use. So I'll let you do that part. Okay. So that would change it to the other sprite. So far, so good. What else do I want to do? Well, I only want it to be frozen for a certain number of seconds. So if you want something to happen for a specific number of seconds, you could do something very similar to what we did just moments ago when we were moving from the main game room into the lose game room. And we wanted to pause in that room for a few seconds and then go back and restart the game. Right? You could do the same thing here, which is, if you remember, setting an alarm for a certain number of seconds. And then, when that alarm reaches 0, it will fire off an event. So we've already got an alarm 0, so that tells you which alarm to set. So set an alarm, and then come back to the alarm event, and what do you need to have happen there? Well, you want to unfreeze the player, so you could set frozen back to false. You want to change the sprite back to the regular sprite, so whichever sprite name that is. Okay. That will work. Now there's something missing here, though. We're setting frozen to true and false, but we're not making any use of that, right? At the moment, what will happen when you set frozen to true? Nothing. You can still move your player up and down. It'll still work as usual. So how can we connect this frozen variable to the player not being able to move? Let's go into our step event and remind ourselves what we were doing in this step event. This is where we were taking care of the player movement, right? We were looking for a keyboard up, and we were looking for a keyboard down, and we were looking at key pressed. Right? And we're using some if statements. What if you surrounded all of these ifs with another if, and the thing you checked for is if frozen is equal to false, and then you did all of this stuff here. What happens now if frozen is true? Well, GameMaker will ignore all the stuff in the middle here and basically will do nothing. So you'll just sit there. Give that a try. All right. So that's a major help without typing it all out. There are a couple other things you should do in this collision where you're freezing the player. You should also play the frozen sound. And if you look, there is a sound over here called frozen. And then when you get into the alarm 0, you want to stop playing it. So what do we want to do with alarm 0? We want to unfreeze the player. We want to change the sprite back to normal. We want to stop playing the freeze sound. And I don't think we've used this yet, but we did audio play. There's also audio stop, and the specific sound that you want to stop. Okay. So that's it. I'll leave it to you. You can work with each other, help each other out to try to figure out how to make that work. Let's see now what it is you need to have for the assignment. All right, so here's assignment number 2. You're going to complete this game, this Evil Clutches game. The aim is to create a multi-room game, which we've already started, with a bunch of cool features. And the goal of the game is for the player to save a specific number of baby dragons, which we've not even touched, before being killed. Okay. So what's the description of the game? Create a game that has the player moving up and down, which we've done, trying to catch baby dragons, which we've not done in this tutorial. That's going to be up to you to figure out how to make that work. While avoiding enemies, we've already done that, at least the demon enemies, and shooting fireballs, which we've set up at least to fire on the demons. Okay. From our tutorial, we've set up the player already to move up and down using the spacebar keys, but you'll have to modify this, right, in order for it to check whether the player's frozen or not. Shoot fireballs, we've set that up. Track the player health, we've set that up. Display a health bar, we've done that. Gain points when collecting baby dragons, we have not set that up. That's up to you for your assignment. Loses health when hit by a demon, we set that up. Freezes temporarily when being hit by an evil baby dragon. I gave you some big hints on how to set that up. You need to have a boss that moves up and down. We've done that. It randomly fires demons. We set that up. It also randomly fires baby dragons, which we did not set up. You'll have to set that up. And evil baby dragons, which we've not set up either. And actually, one more thing. Health packs, which we've not set up yet either, at varying levels of frequency. And I'll leave that up to you as you're deciding your gameplay. How frequently do you want the demons to come, the baby dragons, the health packs, and the evil baby dragons? You should, though, make the health packs super rare, and the evil baby dragons not so rare. Right? We also have demons, which we've already set up. They move toward the left side of the room at one of 3 angles. They bounce back into the room if they hit the top or bottom of the room, and they're destroyed if they exit the left side of the room. You need fireballs, which we've started to set up. They move to the right. They destroy demons. We set that up. They also destroy baby dragons, which you need to set up. Evil baby dragons, which you need to set up. Players should get points for hitting the demons and the evil babies. They should lose points for hitting baby dragons. You need a controller object, which we've started to set up, that tracks the score. We've already done that. And tracks the number of baby saved, which we have not set up. That'll be up to you. And there's an extra credit option, which I'll get into in a minute, which you'll want to, if you choose the extra credit, also have your controller object manage that. The controller object also moves us to the lose room if the health reaches 0. We've already done that. It should move to a win room if a certain number of babies are saved, which we've not set up. It should display the score, which we set up, and the baby's saved information, which we've not set up. Need to have a working lose room, which we've already set up. In addition, here's all the things we didn't cover that you'll need to do on your own. You'll need to add baby dragons. These function very much like the demons, except they're actually a bit easier. You want to move in a straight line from the right side of the room to the left side of the room from the boss's mouth. They earn the player some points if the player collects them. You want to increment the number of babies saved variables and display that information when a baby is saved. Baby dragons are destroyed by fireballs, causing the player to lose points. You should show a visual effect if a baby dragon is hit by a fireball, and I already showed you how to do a visual effect for our demons. And they should be destroyed automatically when they leave the left side of the room, which we did already with the demons. You want to have evil baby dragons that are just another variation of the baby dragons. Again, they move toward the left-hand side of the room. They're going to reduce the player's health when they collide with the player, and importantly, they're going to cause the player to freeze temporarily, switching to the frozen sprite and not being able to move. The player can't move while they're frozen. The evil baby dragons will be destroyed if they're hit by a fireball, giving the player some points. You should show a visual effect if they're hit by a fireball, and again, they should be destroyed when they leave the left side of the room. Finally, the last type of moving object is a health pack. These should appear rarely from the boss's mouth. They should move slowly towards the left-hand side of the room. If the player collects one, the player should earn or should have their health restored to 100%, show a visual effect when they are collected by the player, and they should be destroyed when they exit the left side of the room. Finally, you should create a win room, just like your lose room. If the player saves a certain number of baby dragons, the game will move to the win room, display a message, and then restart the game. And of course, you should include sound effects for all of your collisions, and you should play music in your game as well, just like you did in the fruit clicker assignment. There is opportunity for extra credit in this assignment. It's a challenging one. The extra credit is for tracking and displaying continuous demon hits. The example finished game shows what this looks like. The idea is that each time the player shoots a fireball that hits a demon, you want to increment the continuous demon hits variable. You want to display the current number of hits in the location of the collision between the fireball and the demon. You want to cause the number of continuous hits that shows when you have a collision with a demon. You want it to sort of animate its way up toward the top of the room and out of the room. And you want to destroy that object that shows the current number of continuous hits when it leaves the room. And if a player is hit by a demon, then you reset the continuous hits counter back to 0. So the goal for the player is to get as many continuous hits as possible, but if they are hit themselves by a demon, it resets their continuous hits back to 0. Whoa. Okay. Turn it in as usual, create an executable, packages it as a zip, and upload it to Blackboard. Test and test and test to make sure it works. Here's information on the points. I'll let you look at that on your own. And information, more details on the extra credit. So that's quite a lot. Now we've covered all of the stuff that you need here in this tutorial. You'll just have to take it and rework it, expand it, and change things a bit in order to complete the game. The starter project has all of the events that you need already set up. You just need to go through and complete the code for those events. Good luck, have fun.